From Washington, D.C., this is the Muslim News on Muslim Network TV. Assalamu alaikum, I'm Hena Zuberi. First, the headlines. Rights advocates demand investigation of journalists' murder. U.S. hits record-breaking 107,000 drug overdose deaths in 2021. Refugee puppet Little Amal visits Ukrainian children in Lviv. Canadian gymnasts sue sports governing body over alleged abuses. Sri Lankan protesters burn home of Prime Minister. A Muslim engineer at Stanford helps cell phones see in 3D. Our top story tonight. On Wednesday, human rights advocates called for a thorough and transparent investigation into Israel's killing of a Palestinian-American journalist. Al Jazeera and witnesses said Israeli soldiers shot and killed Shireen Akleh, a veteran network correspondent, while she was at work. Israeli forces have a long history of targeting journalists during wars, invasions, and other military oppressions, Palestinian rights advocates say. The Palestinian Solidarity Campaign says Abu Akleh is the 55th journalist killed by Israel since 2000. The American anti-war group Code Pink demanded an immediate suspension of U.S. military aid to Israel. The U.S. gives Israel around $3.8 billion in unconditional annual military aid. That's despite Israel being classified as an apartheid state by prominent international and Israeli officials and organizations. Nihad Awad, head of Council of American Islamic Relations, or CAIR, demanded that the FBI investigate Abu Akleh's killing. The U.S. hit a record number of drug overdose deaths last year, according to data from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, or CDC. The CDC's provisional estimate of over 107,000 overdose deaths represents a dramatic 15% increase from the previous record set in 2020. In all, over 93,000 people were estimated to have died from overdoses that year. The preliminary data released Wednesday was cause for concern, a Biden administration official said. Dr. Rahul Gupta, director of White House's Office of National Drug Control Policy, said it's unacceptable that one life is lost every 5 minutes to drug overdoses. In April, President Biden sent Congress his strategy on national drug control to address the overdose epidemic. The House Select Committee investigating the January 6 attack on the U.S. Capitol will receive a new set of documents from the Donald Trump White House. President Joe Biden authorized the National Archives and Records Administration to hand over an 8th batch of presidential records. The National Archives has already turned over hundreds of pages of documents to the committee. The latest set contains about 23,000 emails and attachments, the Washington Post reported on Wednesday. The committee will receive the documents by May 26th, just weeks ahead of the start of public hearings on June 9th. Former President Trump tried to assert privilege over daily presidential diaries, speeches, remarks, and correspondence about the events of January 6th. He also blocked the files of his top advisors and lawyers, the Post reported. On Tuesday, U.S. Senator Elizabeth Warren and Congresswoman Pramila Jayapal introduced legislation highlighting the Supreme Court's lack of binding ethics rules. The bill proposes a number of solutions to tackle what it calls the High Court's corruption. This comes on the heels of the U.S. Supreme Court's conservative judges being poised to overturn Roe v. Wade, the landmark 1973 ruling legalizing abortion. The Supreme Court is the only court in the U.S. not governed by a code of ethics. That leaves justices free to accept gifts from partisan actors, attend political fundraisers, and participate in cases in which they have glaring conflicts of interest. The Council on American Islamic Relations is urging Virginia's Fairfax County Police Department to renew its search for Ahmed Hashim Ibrahim. Ibrahim was reported missing on January 17th. He was allegedly murdered the day before. CAIR held a news conference today calling on Fairfax County officials to direct police to reopen the search for Ibrahim's body. Authorities learned his body was placed in a dumpster on January 17th and later taken to a local landfill. In an April 29 letter, CAIR urged Fairfax County Police Chief Kevin Davis to renew the search for Ibrahim's body. It also detailed a list of questions from his family which have not been addressed. A U.S. government investigation has found at least 53 burial sites at federal Native American boarding schools, according to a report released Wednesday. Initial findings of the investigation, which examined records under federal control, shows hundreds of children died in boarding schools. Officials expect the numbers to climb into the thousands or tens of thousands as the investigation continues. The 106-page report is the first volume of the ongoing Federal Indian Boarding Schools Initiative. It found the U.S. intentionally forced Indigenous families to send their children to boarding schools as part of a system of assimilation. It comprised 408 federal Indian boarding schools across 37 states and territories, including 21 schools in Alaska and 7 schools in Hawaii. A Muslim researcher at Stanford University has invented a low-energy, inexpensive way to produce 3D photography and imagery using cell phone cameras. Okan Atalar's research was published in the journal Nature last month, along with that of 3 other Stanford scientists. Atalar told Anadolu Agency similar research in the field has attracted global attention in recent years. He said the performance of existing optical systems that can measure depth with cameras is very low and requires high costs. But after 4 years, he and other scientists have created a simple device that can be added on to an existing camera. He said that the invention, the brightness and color of light, as well as the distance, can be seen in each pixel when a photo is taken. Little Amal is visiting Ukraine. Details after the break. Stay tuned and we'll be right back after these messages.
If I could be you and you could be me for just 1 hour, if we could find a way to get inside each other's minds. Walk a mile in my shoes, walk a mile in my shoes. Well, before you abuse, criticize and accuse, walk a mile in my shoes.
There are 16 million children struggling with hunger in America. That's 1 in 5 daughters, sons, neighbors, and classmates who don't know where their next meal is coming from. Yet billions of pounds of good food go to waste every year. It's time we do something about it. Feeding America is a nationwide network of food banks that helps provide meals to millions of kids and families in need. Visit feedingamerica.org to help them feed even more. Together, we can solve hunger. Together, we're feeding America.
Billboards are popping up all over the country with an...
Our neighbors don't realize that Muslims are absolutely opposed to ISIS.
Salam. My name is Abdul Malik Mujahid. I'm an imam in Chicago.
16 shots! No me! No justice! No me!
So how do we bring up the energy which can really have an impact on the world? You need to build bridges of understanding among people, and we need to have America moving forward.
That lesson learned have brought the strength of humanity to America, which is the diversity.
Mujahid Talks, only on Muslim Network TV. Faithfully connected.
Assalamu alaikum everyone, it's your brother Zain Bika from South Africa. One of the first educational programs ever produced for Muslim children was the ever popular Adam's World series. The colorful and comical Muslim puppets stole the heart of a generation. Sound Vision will be releasing brand new episodes of Adam's World with the launch of a Adam's World app. Subscribers will enjoy new Adam's World episodes as they are released, as well as all the classic episodes of Adam's World. So visit adamsworldapp.com now to learn more, subscribe, and enjoy new adventures of Adam and his friends. And let's keep helping tomorrow's Muslims today. Assalamu alaikum.
Adam's World. Believe me, there's a lot to see. Bismillah. Let's explore.
Despite the development of a COVID-19 vaccine, millions around the world will not have access. We need a vaccine that's free and available to everyone, everywhere. It's time for a people's vaccine.
Welcome back. Little Amal, a giant puppet symbolizing a refugee girl, met with displaced Ukrainian children in the city of Lviv on Wednesday. The walk by Little Amal started in Turkey last July. It is a close to 5,000-mile walk to support young refugees and spotlight their plight. The 11-foot-tall figure of a young Syrian refugee child walked across Turkey, Greece, Italy, France, Switzerland, Germany, and Belgium before reaching the UK. It aims to focus attention on the urgent needs of young refugees. Over 12 million Ukrainians have been displaced since Russia invaded their country on February 24th, according to the BBC. On Tuesday, international donors pledged $6.7 billion in support of Syrian people and host communities at Brussels Syria conference. Of that pledge, $4.3 billion will be granted this year. European Union Commissioner for Enlargement and Neighborhood Oliver Valhelyi said. Valhelyi said 75% of the pledges came from EU or its member states. He added that the underlines message of solidarity with Syrian people and its host communities. Representatives from 55 governments, 22 international groups in addition to the UN and EU, as well as civil society members participated at the donor conference. Syria has been in a civil war since early 2011. More than 400,000 people have been killed in the conflict, and over 12 million have fled their homes, becoming refugees or internally displaced, according to the EU. Protesters in Sri Lanka have burnt down the homes of 38 politicians, including the Prime Minister, as the country plunges further into chaos. The Washington Post reports that the government has ordered troops to shoot on sight. Police said on Tuesday 75 other homes have been damaged as angry Sri Lankans defy a nationwide curfew to protest. Crowds are rallying against the government's mishandling of the island nation's worst economic crisis since 1948. On Tuesday, the Ministry of Defense ordered troops to shoot anyone found damaging state property or assaulting officials. The violence has left at least 9 people dead since Monday. Over 200 people have been injured. Japan's growing Muslim population has only a few cemeteries to bury their dead. Typically, cremation is the norm in the Southeast Asian country. But some cemeteries do offer burial arrangements based on Muslim religious beliefs. An estimated 230,000 Muslims are living in Japan at the end of 2020, according to Hirofumi Tanada, Professor Emeritus of Sociology of Waseda University. Only 7 cemeteries in Japan accept burials of Muslims. The Kyushu region has none, despite the efforts of Boppo Muslim Association in Boppu on the southeast main island. The association planned to open a cemetery for Muslim burials in the city, but local residents objected. The group has submitted a petition to the Health Ministry asking to open multicultural cemeteries. On Wednesday, a group of Canadian gymnasts filed a claim against Gymnastics Canada and the Federation's provincial counterparts for a climate of abuse and mistreatment. The action stems from the physical, sexual, and psychological abuse of gymnasts in the country. The plaintiffs alleged a culture of control and abusive behavior, which created an environment where abuse and mistreatment of athletes became commonplace. The lawsuit was filed at the Supreme Court of British Columbia, home of lead plaintiff and former gymnast Amelia Klein. In an AFP interview, Klein described lingering long-term effects from that mistreatment, including chronic physical and psychological pains. According to the lawsuit, the abuse occurred while under the care and control of Provincial Gymnasts Organization and Gymnastics Canada. Coming up next after the break is our in-depth analysis segment on the assassination of veteran Al Jazeera journalist Shireen Akleh. So stay tuned and we'll be right back after these messages.
Assalamu alaikum. This is Imam Malik Mujahid in Chicago. Just like you, I was moved by that Allahu Akbar lady. She stood her ground, fearful of none, for her hijab and for her education. Sisters and brothers, Indian Muslims are facing a genocide. India does not care for Muslim protesting, but it does care for the world opinion. Therefore, we must push the United Nations. The UN has a responsibility to protect. They must prevent genocide. Please sign this UN petition now. Get others to sign. It will help. Trust me, it will help. We need 1 million signatures, brothers and sisters. Please sign now.
Despite the development of a COVID-19 vaccine, millions around the world will not have access. We need a vaccine that's free and available to everyone, everywhere. It's time for a people's vaccine.
Dad, they took over my bedroom. Come on, come on. Okay, Dad. 1, 2, 3. Dad! You saved me. Dad?
Are you okay?
I'm fine, dear.
Your hero needs you now, and AARP is here to help. Find the care guides you need at aarp.org/caregiving.
We are Justice for All. Headquartered in the heart of downtown Chicago, Justice for All is a global humanitarian initiative dedicated to raising awareness for human rights concerns impacting vulnerable minority groups. Our diverse team of staff and volunteers, led by Imam Malik Mujahid, work tirelessly to help Justice for All achieve their goals. We promote policies that protect religious freedom, address the root causes of mass displacement, and recognize the plight of refugees and forced migrants. Together, we can continue to stand up for justice. Justice for all.
Welcome back. The American anti-war group Code Pink has demanded an immediate suspension of U.S. military aid to Israel. The U.S. gives about $3.8 billion to Israel in unconditional annual military aid. To discuss this, we have with us Ariel Gold. She's the national co-director of Code Pink and a U.S. Middle East foreign policy expert. Thank you for being here with us today, Ariel.
Thank you so much for having me on.
So on Wednesday, May 11, 2022, Israeli soldiers shot and killed 51-year-old Palestinian-American Al Jazeera journalist Shireen Abu Akleh. Code Pink is making some demands after the assassination of this American journalist. Can you share with us the demands?
Sure. We've seen far too many times Israel not be held to any account. And the world has taken notice right now, and the Biden administration, as well as prominent leaders in Congress, are calling for an investigation. But the thing is, they've also said that it's fine for Israel to investigate themselves, and they haven't specified what the consequences are. And there is a very clear and very immediate need for consequences today. U.S. military aid, at least partially, if not entirely, should be suspended immediately, pending the investigation, which must be handled by a third party.
Now, you said that America doesn't have a record of holding Israel accountable. Can you please elaborate on that?
Well, I could give a couple of examples. Shireen is far from the first Palestinian American to have been killed horrifically by Israel's military. Just earlier this year, an elderly Palestinian American man was held and blindfolded and handcuffed at a checkpoint and left there, and he died of a heart attack, and no consequences have been imposed. We have, going back, we have a record of brutal killings of Palestinians and Palestinian Americans. And the general way this works is then Israel investigates themselves. They either exonerate themselves or they say, this was a moral failing and we're sorry, but nothing happens from there. Even the one case, or one of the few cases where there were some consequences, was the killing in Hebron by Israeli soldier Alor Azaria, where in this case there was a very clear video. He was executed while lying incapacitated on the ground. And there was video of this, very clear video. So Alor Azaria did stand trial, but he actually, throughout the trial, he became lionized in Israeli society. He became this national hero. And in the end, he only served, I think it was 9 months total. And he was out frequently during that for various holidays and various things. And the more important thing is that it's not just the individual soldier. Israel may identify the sniper, the individual sniper who shot Shireen in the face, killing her. And there may be some mild consequences for that individual soldier, but that is not accountability. That is not justice in this case. This is, it is the whole Israeli military. In fact, it's the whole Israeli system that needs to be held accountable. And the best way to do that, the entity who's capable of doing that is the United States. But to do so, there have to be real consequences, not grave concern. We're very concerned, but actual cutting, suspending, ending of U.S. military assistance.
Now, the United Nations has called this a war crime. Yet the Israeli military spokesperson, Kochav Ron, on Army radio, has accused Shireen and her colleagues of being armed with cameras. What is your reaction to that statement?
Well, that was just shocking and appalling. What Israel did in this case, what they do, their usual playbook when something like this happens, they first deny, which Israel did in this case. They said, nope, it wasn't us. It was a Palestinian sniper. Then they said, well, maybe, but we still think it wasn't us. Then they went as far as to say that her camera was a weapon. And beyond that, now they've offered to investigate themselves. They invited the PA to join them. So to, just kind of whitewash the investigation. I want to be shocked by this, but I've been following Israeli politics for a long time. And so unfortunately, I'm not that shocked.
What can the people following the news and who are just as angered by this as you are, what can the average American do?
So we at Code Pink, we are calling on the Biden administration to immediately suspend aid pending a thorough and third-party investigation. And people can sign our petition. It's on our website, codepink.org/Shireen.
Thank you for sharing that. Please do follow Code Pink and sign on to the petition. Ariel, are you seeing any reactions from Congress on this? Rashida Tlaib has spoken on this. Is there anybody that has surprised you with their stance?
I wouldn't say surprised. I would say that this has gotten enough media attention. It has gotten enough attention. She was a prominent enough journalist, prominent throughout the Arab world, that it has gone higher than that. And in fact, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi has condemned the killing and says she's horrified and demanding a swift and thorough investigation. But again, which is fantastic. That is a move in the right direction. It is more than we've seen in the past. In this case, it is not just the squad, Rashida Tlaib and Ilhan Omar, or just the progressive caucus leaders, Jayapal, but it is all the way up to the moderate mainstream Democrats and Democratic leadership. But we have this thing again where Israel is trusted to investigate themselves, and we know far better than this. We've seen this too many times, and in any case, it must be a third-party investigation.
So who would you recommend the third party be?
I would recommend the International Criminal Court, as well as other parts of the United Nations. And we have an international body and an international court for exactly these things.
Thank you so much for your time and commitment, Ariel.
Thanks so much for having me.
That's all from our Washington studios tonight. Thank you for tuning in. You can find previous episodes and more on our YouTube or Facebook. For more content, keep watching Muslim Network TV or visit muslimnetwork.tv. Assalamu alaikum and good night.